Thank you. So, as I was listening to everyone before me speak, Gokul, you mentioned the point about, sorry, I had to actually put a timer for myself for 10 minutes to speak, but my time starts now. Okay. Um, Gokul, first to your point about, monetization and this whole, when, of like the great work that is being done and then doesn't get, there's no value, like there's no proper value capture mechanism, right? But I do feel that, so I came across an article by Joel Monegro on fat protocols, right? And he explains the concept of public open source work, right? That investors and founders and developers like yourself can actually monetize, because after all, blockchain technology is nothing else but a coordination mechanism, right? And I would like to talk about actually what blockchain is, and then public versus private. Is it publicly coordinated or is it privately being coordinated, and what are the pros and cons, right? And what are the trade-offs? So for example, Joel Monegro, in his Fat Protocol argument, in his thesis, he states over there that investors and founders and developers for the first time can monetize inventing and writing TCP/IP or SMTP or HTTP, right? Now, these are protocols, and these have all been invented like by university professors. They aren't the millionaires and the billionaires. It's the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Jeff Bezos of the world who have written apps on top of these protocols, and monetization has happened at the app level. But with blockchain technology, with Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper that was written in 2008-9, it combined it brought to the forth like cryptography and economic incentives, and there was very clear incentive engineering. And also Vitalik Buterin has spoken about crypto economics, right? And so if you were to write a protocol that is of actual value, and then use of that protocol is monetized, and you as a founder are holding on to those tokens, and then it's a question of network effects, and as you get more and more developers to use it, right? So, but I mean, what I understood from it is that at the protocol level now monetization is possible, and this is where the inversion is, where Web 0.20 all the value capture was at the app level. In Web 3.0, using decentralized protocols and crypto economics and consensus algorithms, we bring it down the tech stack. Ravi, as to your point, I think at some point you were saying a lot of business related and very practical aspects of it. And at MainChain we have been making in various presentations and and doing workshops and educating, and we work mostly with business owners and promoters of large companies. So at a very strategic, at a very decision-making level, they want to understand how safe or how private are my transactions and what am I getting out of blockchain? Why would I ever do a blockchain, right? And so then we get into is everything, if it's open, public, and transparent, then how do I hold on to my transparency, or how do I hold on to my privacy, confidential transactions, and all of that? So, so what I try to do is, and how I like to look at this public-private debate is, and many before me have used this term and said that decentralization is not binary. It's always across the spectrum. So, and there are certain aspects that are decentralized and there are certain aspects that are centralized. So, I mean, if the entire validation and consensus mechanism, let's say, is centralized, then you're basically just saying that it's a centralized service with APIs at the edges, right? So one has to then clearly demarcate what we are centralizing, what makes sense to decentralize, and what benefits is decentralization getting. So, for example, we are advising, on strategy points to large, fintech clients and, small and large. So one of the largest concerns is then that. So then, and then as you correctly pointed out that, we're always looking at hybrid models, right? But if we just take a step back, I'm actually quite a fan of what ENY's Nightfall project is. Their third generation ZKP, zero knowledge proof tech code, right? And Paul Brody, who's heading that, he was, I don't know how many years ago, we were co-panelists at a session in Mauritius, and we were both figuring out and understanding blockchain technology at the same time. So, and so now I was reading some of the work that they've been doing. So the Nightfall project, so it's totally catering to having privacy and scalability, but with public verifiability. And their cost of transaction or their scalability is like some $0.05. So I'm like, they've been able to bring down the cost. And Gokul, you probably, if you've studied Quorum in detail and R3 and all of that, if you go look at it, you'll probably, from a technical point of view, understand much more. They do batching, and then they take multiple proofs together, and then they also are obviously using homomorphic encryption techniques so that the logic of the transaction can be verified, but it is all encrypted. So that then anybody can attest to the fact that what they're saying is true, but what is the content of it is not revealed. Right? And we all know about zero knowledge proof, but they have a third gen zero knowledge proof, and their project is called Nightfall project. So, initiatives like that. And in the very same article that he had written, he was making the argument that when the IT wave took over and when TCP/IP became relevant in the world and it was invented and it burst into public consciousness in 1995 onwards, a lot of the technology innovation was happening within firms. So it was still a very hierarchical way of thinking and of organization, like command and control. Now, blockchain technology is a technology for the market level. It's not at the firm level. So now how decentralized you want to go depends on the various trade-offs that are involved. So I like their approach between, balancing the public and private aspect of it. And I was also reading up there are various other protocols which are allowing privacy and scalability on public blockchains. Because I think that is the biggest concern for that we don't have enough throughput, we don't have enough scalability, and we don't have enough privacy. Why will we ever use the public blockchain? But the argument is the same when we went from intranet to internet. 20, 30 years ago, companies had only intra-corporate email networks. They only trusted a small distributed computing environment and all trusted nodes or all trusted parties accessing that shared network. So it took some time before we went from intranet to internet. And that's exactly the same thing. I think that it's just it's that walk. You have to do it to go from private permission to private permissionless to public permissionless, open, transparent chains like public chains, where enterprise needs and requirements are fully factored into. And also, I think, once we're having this debate about public and private, it's important to just understand that blockchain, like what Gokul was saying, is that, or Ravi, I've forgotten which one of you alluded to that point, that, what is the main business? What is the purpose of blockchain? What is it bringing new to the world? What is it changing? Why do we even need blockchain? So as a business owner, if you look at it, so there are two vantage points. One is that you bring it into a business or a set of businesses and it reduces costs and time. And so the order of magnitude of improvement is a couple of orders of magnitude, right? Because it's just a lot more efficient way of operations. You have a shared back office. So, you don't have to do as much of reconciliation. There's much less fraud and error and much less manual intervention. You don't have to trust your this thing. So you have like a shared ledger and a shared back office, right? So in some limited way, there's disruption over there. So such a technology can then be called a disruptive technology. But blockchain, the more and more reading that I'm doing and the more and more scholars that have written about the subject, they are comparing it and they're calling it a general purpose technology, a more transformational, a more foundational technology. So for that to take hold, it will obviously take some more time. It's like, which are the other general purpose foundational technologies that we've had? Electricity, railways, automobile, and the internet. Like I said, for internet also, we went to intranet to internet. So with like these kind of examples, it is going to take time for businesses, the way they are run today, the way economies are managed, the way public sector dispersion of services happens, for all of that to get automated, self-executed, non-reliant on central authorities. We're definitely at least 20 years away. But in closing, I would like to say that, if we can think of the debate of shall we use a public chain versus a private chain? I think at the back of our minds, we should always think that what blockchain technology is bringing to the table is a move from reputation-based consensus mechanisms towards trustless consensus protocols, right? Or towards game theoretic, or towards an incentivized but decentralized, trustless, distributed trust architecture. So we are actually moving from centralized powerhouses of who we trust, the reputation. 100 years, I'll trust them. 1 year, I can't trust them. So that, and who we trust to aggregate, who we trust with our identity information, who we trust, that for that foundational change to happen is frankly why I'm in this space, and how I always, when I'm advising a company or I'm advising a firm on this thing, we have a whole spectrum of questions like this that we answer and then design. So I was speaking to a law firm, and they're like, if we want to assure data security, but my client is like, how do I know that the data that I've given you, if there's no backdoor to it? Who has CRUD? Who is the ultimate master centralized service? Is there any backdoor to it? Who has full admin control, right? So then we design the blockchain governance so that it's publicly verifiable yet private. So I think public and private have to get married to each other.